And on the 14th day, the Republicans folded. Alabama Republicans are crying uncle. They apparently would please like some way out of the national embarrassment they created for themselves last month when Republican Governor Robert Bentley announced he was closing a lot of the places where you get a driver's license. Losing your local DMV would be inconvenient in any case, but what made this potentially a federal case is that last year, Alabama started requiring people to show new forms of ID at the polls that they never had to show before if you wanted to be allowed to vote. And a valid driver's license is at the top of the list for acceptable Alabama IDs. A driver's license is the most common way people are allowed to vote now in Alabama. And so it had heavy and disturbing voting rights implications when the Alabama governor decided last month that he was going to close the places where you get that kind of ID in the Alabama counties that have the highest proportion of voters who are African American. Republicans shut down the place where you get a driver's license in every single Alabama county where at least 3/4 of the voters are black. It should also be noted that heavily black counties in Alabama tend to also be heavily Democratic counties. These are the 10 Alabama counties that went most strongly for Barack Obama in the last election. Alabama Republicans closed the DMV in 8 of those 10 counties. Intentionally or not, they were blacking out voting rights in Alabama's Black Belt, making it harder to vote in that historic Black Belt region of former cotton plantations in Alabama, where African Americans tend to outnumber white people. Regardless of what you meant to do, that is not the kind of decision you can make in 2015 without having people notice.
Okay, wait a second. To vote in Alabama, you need an ID, and they're closing the places where you get IDs? What the Seriously, Alabama?
Apparently, yes. Seriously. Alabama. The reaction around the country to what Alabama did was, it was swift around the country and brutal around the country. It was also swift and brutal at home in Alabama. The Republican state auditor of Alabama called the governor's cuts illegal. A Republican state senator said the cuts were intentional pain unleashed by the governor on districts that didn't support the governor. Governor Bentley was already unpopular with members of his own Republican Party at home. In part, that is because Governor Bentley's wife filed for divorce this year after 50 years of marriage. And the rumors about that sensitive matter have only recently left the headlines in that state. And in the uproar over that issue, Governor Bentley faced calls for him to resign, faced calls for an investigation into potentially inappropriate use of state troopers and the state plane. This has not been a great year for Governor Robert Bentley in Alabama. It has not been a great year for him with his own party. But the past 2 weeks have just been a disaster. After the news broke about Mr. Bentley's plan to close all the DMVs in all those Black Belt counties, he first tried to defend it. He told reporters that closing all of those offices in mostly black counties had nothing to do with voting rights whatsoever. He tried to defend his decision, but in the end, he could not defend his decision. And today, Alabama press is reporting that those offices where you get that most common form of voter ID, those offices could reopen. Because now Governor Bentley has decided to change course. He has a new plan. He's quietly floating an idea for an emergency loan to reopen those offices, to undo that thing he did that so embarrassed him and the state of Alabama. The governor's going to need the state legislature to go along with him on this new plan, and maybe they will. But honestly, they have been pretty happy to see him take all the heat for this at home and nationwide. And so maybe they'll help him undo this, but maybe they won't. Maybe they will just leave him out there at the edge of what you apparently can get away with in conservative politics. Maybe they'll just leave him out there on his own, continuing to try to explain this away.